Qualifying all the way now today on Friday here at Macau. Local time is 10:25 in the morning. It's sunny, there's a clear blue sky, it's chilly, but perfect, I would say, conditions for qualifying. First of all, for the Macau Touring Car Cup. The China Touring Car Championship comes here to Macau, and they have 25 minutes of qualifying. Free practice sessions yesterday. First of the free practice sessions saw the number 18 car of Zhang Dong at the top of the times. The wonderful sight of the blue skies and the sunshine here at Macau give you an idea that conditions are absolutely perfectly set for this qualifying session. 25 minutes around the circuit. They've had 2 free practice sessions, and of course all of the glamour and the glitz of the Macau Grand Prix is well underway in the paddock around the cars. They are equally as glamorous, equally as bright, and we get the chance just before the cars go out at 10:30 local time to see some of those very vibrant liveries that we have for the China Touring Car Championship and the Macau Touring Car Cup this weekend. And David, they are, aren't they? It's our glimpse into the way that racing cars look in this part of the world, and it is always something special for the 4 days of the Macau Grand Prix.
It is indeed, and also, of course, this race is not only the Macau Touring Car Cup, won last year by Rob Huff, but it is a round of the China Touring Car Championship, and so you've got drivers coming here fighting for points. The China Touring Car Championship is led by Jack Young, the Irish driver, British-Irish driver, and Martin Tao is second in the championship, Jason Zhang third, and last year's champion David Zhu is fourth. Just to catch up on 1 or 2 things from yesterday, when they had 2 free practice sessions, we had 51 Wu Fan, who crashed in FP2 at Fisherman's Bend and caused a red flag, so we'll keep an eye to see whether that car has made it out today. 1 or 2 were in the naughty corner at the end yesterday as well. A couple of them, Chen Lung and Yan Chao, didn't stop for weighing, so they lost their first session times. 55, Martin Shi did a practice start out of the designated area, so he got a reprimand for that, as also did Aaron Kwok, and Max Hart was given a reprimand because his car was parked flush to the pit lane, not parked at the 45-degree angle. The most serious finger wag, though, thus far, has been in the direction of Lei Jing-wen for the 326 racing team, because his Audi is a different Audi from the one used at the end of the last round of the China Touring Car Championship, and that breaks Article 30.2 of the regulations, and therefore the change of car is approved, but it was not eligible for points this weekend in the championship, and it will cop for a drop of 10 grid positions for the first race. So wherever the car qualifies, it's going to drop 10 places on the grid. One word: ouch. It's not the best of starts for the weekend, is it? We're looking at the one of the regulars here at Macau, Felipe de Souza, in his always very brightly coloured machine. He's in an Audi RS3. 2 racing entered car, and you get an idea of just how vibrant these liveries are here for the China Touring Car Championship, but a championship that has attracted some top stars from the British Touring Car Championship in the past. Colin Turkington has raced in the China Touring Car Championship, so too has Adam Morgan, and as you rightly say, David, Rob Huff has as well, known as Mr. Macau. Sort of shares the title with Eduardo Mortara. There's a few Mr. Macaus. It's those that win so well here at Macau, and Rob Huff has won so well here at Macau, and he's even got a little waxwork in the local Macau Grand Prix Museum. It's a very impressive one as well. So we are very close to getting things underway, about 30 seconds or thereabouts. It's the 86 car of Jiangnan from China. Hyundais, Audis, got quite a collection of cars, including Hondas as well. And when we get this session underway, we'll see just what a high level of performance we get from the China Touring Car Championship. These are top teams in the region, and the green flag
is waved, so we get the cars out on circuit, and certainly teams, of course, are running cars in the gear race as well for this weekend for TCR touring cars. So the familiar engine notes make their way out of the paddock, out onto the circuit, just to get cars up to temperature. With that tree just in the foreground there, you can see just how windy and blowy it is. It's been pretty windy here for a few days. There was one point at which I was walking in this morning, and I could have been forgiven for thinking that I was walking along the promenade at St Anne's on Sea. It was really very blowy indeed.
Now, qualifying in two parts, 20 minutes this first segment, and we're looking at the top 12 that will go through into a 10-minute shootout. And the first race for these cars, which will be tomorrow, the 9-lap race, will have the grid in the conventional order, whereas Sunday's race will reverse the top 10 out of the top 12 from qualifying, if you're still with me. So it's a conventional grid tomorrow, but we are going to have this two-part qualifying session. So the pressure is on here, in a sense, not to be slow. You don't have to be absolutely rocket ship quick yet, just get into that top 12.
20 minutes. We just had a free practice session for the Formula 3 cars. Because they had stoppages, they were 15 minutes into the session, and they hadn't really put a meaningful lap in. So 20 minutes is not very long around the gear circuit. It's a long circuit, 6.1 kilometres. You've got to get the cars ready. You've got to get them ready for this, and they are wheeling the cars from side to side. We've already got a yellow flag down at turn 4, which is not good news. At the bottom of San Francisco Hill.
It is, yes. Well, it might be between 3 and 4, because there was a flashing yellow light at Lisboa, just warning them coming out of there, but yellow has been shown. So let us see for why. Oh, there's part of your answer, because a car has spun coming up the hill, and it is Jiang Nan in 86, the Z-Speed Hyundai. So car in the middle of the road and a 3-point turn, and they've got limited lock on a modern-day touring car, so this is not the work of a moment, but hopefully by the time he's done that, everybody else will have finished their slow lap and he'll be out of the way.
So that's not ideal, but it's not delaying anybody else as they thread their way so slowly around the Macau hairpin. Said this yesterday, it's actually more difficult to go around the Macau hairpin really, really slowly than it is up at a proper pace on the proper approach speed. And then we've now got a green flag at turn 4, so that car has got going again. That was the car of Jiang Nan. So the 86 car on its way. That's good news, because they can't afford a delay here, really. They need to get the cars up to temperature, the tyres working, and then put in some meaningful laps to make the most of this 20 minutes.
So yesterday, the first session was a 2:31.6 as the top time by Zhang Zhendong, former champion, and then we got to the 2-minute 30s in the second session for Andy Yan, the Hong Kong driver, and he has been a regular visitor to Europe to race in things like the Motorsport Games, for example. Very, very experienced driver is Andy Yan, and also a very successful driver as well, so no surprise to see him going well.
So they do now go on to the first of these flying laps, and with 16.5 minutes just under of this qualifying session, they hopefully will get the chance to get into a groove. Well behaved yesterday by and large, weren't they?
Well, absolutely right. So we'll also see today what can be done in terms of now grid position times. Another one to watch is going to be Andre Couto, because he's a Macau Grand Prix winner, Formula 3 Grand Prix winner, and he is from Macau, always a hero. And drama, car in the wall, debris on the road, and that's coming out of reservoir. So with its back to us and a yellow flag exiting turn 1, I think that's Sonny Wong, who has gone around in the Lincoln Co. And so hopefully he's going to be able to move that. But it depends really how big the damage is and how hard a hit that was.
There was quite a bit of debris as well. You can see it. It's a pretty well known for touring cars. It's a pretty well known thing here. Just slipping wide, coming around the corner, a nudge to the nose, throws the car back up. To see the momentum that travels the car right the way around, and inevitably it's going to be a red flag. There's plenty to clear up there. A car which is damaged and all sorts of debris on the circuit. That's a quick part of the circuit. You can't carry on without a red flag. 15.5 minutes remain.
So Sonny Wong then does not get a lap time in, and he's going to be condemned to the back of the grid effectively for both races now, because everybody else will have a chance to improve. Because it's qualifying, the clock stops, but Sonny Wong, who'd only been able to achieve an outlap, has just, I'm afraid, ruined his weekend. And he's done that all on his own. Not enough temperature in the tyres, a little bit too much speed through reservoir. And it's not that he's not been here before. Sonny Wong is a quick and experienced driver, and I'm afraid that was all self-induced.
And yeah, I wasn't expecting that from Sonny. Running with the Shell Teamwork Link & Co racing team, and a hugely experienced team. They draft in some top brains in the engineering world for their Macau Grand Prix week, and that is unexpected, probably very unexpected for Sonny Wong as well. Yeah,
indeed. Who's won the Macau Touring Car Cup in the past, when he in a Subaru. Admittedly, 5 of the laps were behind a safety car, but he still won it. So big drama for Sonny Wong, and that is not going to go down a storm with the Shell Teamwork Link & Co squad. It's actually been a poor year by Sonny Wong by his standards, 11th in the championship, and he's only had a 3rd place as his best result. So it's not going to improve a huge amount here as well, as the brooms are lobbed over the wall. Marshall's jumped through as well. Again, the recovery operation here is really well drilled. Recovery truck there as quick as is possible on instruction from race control. The crew set to work on the car, moving that. The other marshals will check on any liquid and put the cement dust down to soak it all up as quickly as. But what we've really done now is lose effectively 10 minutes, because we'd had just under 5, nothing achieved. We're going to have another 5 by the time they've really got to the end of a flying lap.
And you can imagine that the drivers that have a problem during a session like this feel terrible about it, not just for themselves, but for everybody else as well.
You reckon?
Yes, I do.
You think the best of people, don't you?
I do.
Yes.
I like to look for the good in everybody.
You'd never get a job running a Formula 1 team in Singapore with an attitude like that.
I'll leave it there. I can't top that.
So down the pit lane come the survivors, including David Zhu's Shell Teamwork Link & Co. That's what they're meant to look like, with that slightly formidable mouth painted onto the car. But Sonny Wong's Link & Co.'s mouth has just had some teeth knocked out.
Yeah.
The Hyundai's pushed back into place up at different teams. That's the Hyundai of Z-Speed. That's Max Hart, the Irish driver, who's been quick in TCR in the UK. And we were saying yesterday, it's worth making the point again, just how successful a concept TCR as a rule set has been. It's not 10 years old yet, and yet it's gone all around the world. And actually, in some markets, has surprised with the success, like Australia, where you think doesn't stand a chance against supercar racing, but it has. Germany was an odd one, because it really boomed, and then it just faded away. Britain has been a very slow burn, but has now picked up to a healthy number, whereas it's really good in Italy. France is growing, but particularly well, I think it's done in this region.
Yes, it has, and it's gone well in countries that didn't already have an existing and very good touring car championship. And I think the UK, the reason it's been such a slow burner, it was already a market that was taken care of in the UK, so it's had to find its place. Yeah,
and having done so, as in this is a subordinate touring car category, come and race in this, and then you might be able to progress to the BTCC. That's fine. A bit like production saloon car racing used to be. You know,
it's true.
It wasn't trying to take on the main game. And I think that TCR is now proving itself to be just that. And the fact that it's got some very good drivers in it these days adds to the reputation. Now there is Felipe de Souza, who was the winner of the gear race last year, and we were a little bit underwhelmed by him yesterday because he never really clicked, did he?
It didn't shine, did it, yesterday? No. Maybe today is going to be a bit different once we get to competition, because, and it's worth making the point as well, although there are bragging rights for free practice and doing well in free practice, it's not competitive, it doesn't form a grid, so there's nothing in particular that you can shine about in free practice. Maybe some of them hold it back for qualifying. We shall wait and see. But Felipe de Souza, exactly as you say, winner of the gear race from last year, is one that I would expect.
Yeah, he should be further up the order, no question about it. But what's also fascinating about China touring cars this year is the fact that drivers from Europe are coming over to try to make a touring car name for themselves in this series, and therefore it's got a good reputation. You know, Jack Young and Max Hart might, in a sense, have dropped off the UK radar by racing over here, but they're attracting the attention of teams and starting to become names in this region. And you know, there's a lot of racing, and there are a lot of circuits out here, and there are more championships than you think. So Dan Wells was one of the initial pioneers. Dan came out, won Formula Masters in China, and has been based in Hong Kong ever since, and he now still races, but he looks after other drivers, and he's ploughed a really good career out here.
Drivers used to, in the 1980s, 1990s, used to have an idea that they would go into Formula One, and then things didn't open up, opportunities didn't arise, and they would go and race, for example, in Japan and do a really good job of it. Eddie Irvine is an example. Anthony Reid is an example. Single-seaters have a good career.
Yeah, make money.
In Japan,
living.
Make really good money.
Yeah.
And potentially then go on to have a great career back in the UK or globally, in the case of Eddie Irvine, in the BTCC, in the case of Anthony Reid. And he always looks back, when you chat to him about it, he always says it's the best thing I ever did. Going and racing in Japan in single-seaters, Formula 3000 or something like that, was the best thing I ever did. It put me on in the right place. The right people were seeing what I was doing.
And Super GT and Formula Nippon, which have sort of grown out of those days, are still where you can go and earn a good living. And there are Europeans in Super GT. The single-seater options a little bit fewer, but some of the Europeans or non-Japanese drivers are placed there by Red Bull, aren't they? Like Liam Lawson was put into the Japanese Super Formula, for example, for a time. But you're right, it's a region that can reward drivers. Now, the fans here in bigger numbers than yesterday, and there'll be even more tomorrow and even more again on Sunday. They're finding themselves on the big screen and a wave. And now there's that dilemma. Do I look at the camera or do I look at the screen?
How's that for a Friday morning crowd?
Not bad, eh? That's all right. That's all right. And very shortly they're going to see touring cars again, because with 15.5 minutes on the clock, the session will be resumed on a very short call.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that takes it up to the next level.
Yeah.
It's an amber warning. Slippery surface notification down at turn 1. So between turn 1 and Mandarin, slippery surface, waving to either the camera or the big screen. It doesn't matter. All it means is they're happy, very happy. So too will the drivers down in pit lane, because a green flag is shown. The qualifying session gets back underway, and they've got, so we said it at the start of 20 minutes, we say even more forcefully at the start of 15, they've got to make this count.
Yeah.
They've got to get into a groove here.
And keep it off the wall. Sonny Wong didn't get the hint, but he is going to be very, very embarrassed about that. He's got to explain to the team why, for 2 important races, because you've got to do well at Macau, he's going to be at the back of the grid. So
He would have been a terrifying headmaster.
Me?
Yes. Terrifying.
No, I don't think I would have. No, I'd probably have relented. But the point is, he has really, I'm afraid, condemned himself to 2 difficult grid positions here. They've all gone out en masse, haven't they? So now you've got the age-old jockeying for position, trying to get some clear track space, and 3 wide on the run down to Lisboa is a courageous start to the session on cold rubber. So the Lisboa grandstand is always very, very busy as well, and it's understandable why, because there's always drama. Lots of people in the earlier F3 session went straight on here. The Z-Speed Hyundai Elantras go through.
The grandstands here are huge. It's not until you sit in it and you see the amount of metalwork that has gone into producing the roof on a grandstand. That one down at Lisboa, I mean, it's a great place to watch. You're going to see overtaking over the course of the weekend. But it is immense, absolutely immense.
How much of the infrastructure for the Grand Prix is taken down and how much is left? So, for example, the pit lane, which has this concrete wall, does all that disappear and the grandstands are taken down, or how much remains?
I have asked exactly the same question. I've never seen it not on a Grand Prix weekend. Okay. So Sunday night finishes, the race finishes, we get a flight home, and that's it for us. I would actually now, for the first time, I can't think about this, I'd quite like to see Macau on a non-Grand Prix week, to see the normal life of Macau, because the organising committees that are involved put on a huge amount of sporting events throughout the year, music events, arts events. It is not just a vibrant place during Grand Prix week, but it's throughout the year. And I wouldn't mind coming back for a visit,
No, I agree with you, because all that debris fencing would have to be taken down, and the sponsor hoardings would go, and it would look very, very different. But it's things like the Armco and obviously the grandstands go, but they are huge structures.
I assume the same,
We're sitting on top of one overlooking the start line, and you think about how long it would take to erect and to dismantle. It's not the work of a moment. Anyway, for Jack Young, his attention is focused on trying to go fastest. And here he is, coming down towards Fisherman's Bend. And he, Alan, has given himself the ideal run. He's weaving around to get the warmth back into the tyres. And at the end of the next corner, he's going to be onto a flying lap.
A very, very exciting driver to watch. So this is a good one to keep an eye on. The number 77 car leading the China Touring Car Championship is Jack Young. And well, he started out in his tin-top racing over in the UK, very young age as well, with the El Freno Clio Cup, and with Jack Young starting, I think, at 17 years old in the Clios. He was immediately impressive. First year, a titanic battle with drivers that have been racing in Clios for multiple years beforehand, and he came in, he was straight on it, he was part of the gang.
Yeah, he won the international final at the end of the year. He'd only been 15th in the UK Championship, but really stood up and showed what he was capable of on foreign soil. And then he won, as you say, in 2019 after a big battle with Max Coates. He's raced in the European, the Italian, the international, the TCR Championships. He was representing Ireland in the motorsport games, the FIA motorsport games last year, and was third. He leads the championship, 3 wins, couple of second places, and he's done an absolute best in the middle sector. The other driver that's looking quick is Andre Couto, so it's looking good for Hondas at the moment.
Certainly is, yeah. So Jack Young with an overall best in Sector 2. He's on Sector 3 now. So close to touring cars come to the wall on the right, the barrier on the left, the wall on the left, and then the barrier on the right. It's a little bit like a bagatelle board as they go through this area, because they all but bounce off the walls, don't they? It's so tight. Through Donna Maria, that's the long left-hander in just a moment after, and a couple of times just turning into police there. We saw a little puff of smoke from the back of Jack Young's car. I don't think that's anything to particularly worry about. It's a personal best in the sector.
Didn't we have that yesterday as well?
Was it Jack's car? I can't remember.
No, it was Lo Seho's car, wasn't it, last weekend?
But yeah, it was.
We have had it with other people this weekend, you're quite right. So let's see whether it becomes a thing for Jack Young, who will offer up a flying lap very shortly. Andy Yan, number 3, is the other man to watch in all of this with his Hyundai. And then number 7 of Martin Tau, who is chasing Jack Young in the championship. The margin between them, well, Jack Young has 159 points, Martin Tau has 153, so a 6-point cushion is all that Jack has coming into the weekend.
Here we go, we're looking at the 66 car of Andre Couto, but Jack Young did briefly go overall best in Sector 4 as well. It's now personal best because the number 7 car of Martin Tau has taken that away from him, but Jack Young comes up and goes top, so 2:29.898 with a purple sector in Sector 5. Just as well he got that in. The yellow flag in turn 7 now, so yellow flag, that's going to slow times down, so Jack Young did need to make it count on lap number 1, and he did exactly that. Red flag for the number 2 car. That's the car of Chen Chi Wai in the Norris Racing Honda Civic.
And he's not the only one, is he? Because there's a track blockage. There's another one there, look, with damage. That's 27 of Chen Chen Leung. And this is how it all happened then. So through the S's, big slide, and bang, nowhere to go. So Tony Chan was the one that got it wrong, and then Chen Chen Leung got involved as well, just had nowhere to go to avoid that spinning Honda. So Tony Chan, I'm afraid, is the casualty, and that is Felipe de Souza. So the winner of last year's gear race is in the wall as well.
Oh dear, this is not perfect, is it? And a bit of debris on the circuit around the car as well. Not surprising we got the red flag, because not just one isolated incident, 2 incidents. 9 minutes and 29 seconds remain in this 20-minute first section of qualifying. Those that are unwounded from the war come back to pit lane and will wait for the resumption of the session, but it might take a little while, David, because there are a couple of incidents that are going to require recovery vehicles out on track, and not just a simple question of lifting the cars out the way.
No, because Murphy's Law says they all stop where you need to send a flatbed, not a crane hoist.
Tricky places.
So back to the pit lane they come, and all that's with 9 minutes and change on the clock. But it's bizarre, isn't it? Yesterday, we were saying how well-behaved drivers were, and today, with the pressure being turned up a little bit, it seems like, certainly for this category, it's just getting to them a little bit. And you've seen all these unforced errors. You know, Tony Chan did that on his own, as far as we can see. Sonny Wong did that on his own. We did see. Possibly Felipe de Sousa's done that on his own. And these are experienced drivers.
I've got the measure of what today is going to be like. I looked at the timetable this morning and thought, there's big gaps, isn't there, between the sessions today? This is going to be easy. We'll have a nice lunch, afternoon tea. We'll have plenty of time. I'm not sure we will, because Formula 3, that was a difficult session. Virtual safety cars, red flags. Now for the China Touring Car Championship, the Macau Touring Car Cup, a second break in the qualifying session, only the first section qualifying as well.
Yeah, Tony Chan in the Norris Racing Honda, the car that's gone off, racer and rallier, CEO of ProDrive Asia, which looks after motorsport activities. And there you can see Felipe de Sousa's car up against the wall, and a very, very disappointed Felipe de Sousa, the winner of the gear race, both parts last year, looking at the damage.
Actually with his head down.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Literally with his head down.
Although, despite the fact that he's a very experienced driver, he's not done a lot of racing this season. It's the first time we've actually had him within the China Touring Car Championship. So, you know, to come and race at Macau, a deal is done, and maybe there's a little bit of rust that needed filing off. But, again, he is now, without a lap time, going to be at the back, and so also is Tony Chan.
So the car's being pushed back into their formation to get the session back underway. No indication at this stage from race control as to how soon that's going to be. Looking at the 25 car, Jen Chow, Baz Racing Audi RS3 being manoeuvred into place. There's very often the opportunity of drivers to get their liveries and their sponsors on the global world feed from Macau. I know plenty of people tune in from significant parts around the world. Got a couple of messages over the course of this weekend from the world of Formula One, and people enjoying the coverage. Now that is keen, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when there's an event in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And fascinating, isn't it, the way that the events have fallen. Two gambling cities with two very differing races.
I know.
And very differing tracks and different heritage. 70th Macau Grand Prix goes up against the first Las Vegas Grand Prix, but I bet this has got more character than Vegas.
If you like your casino backdrop to your motorsport,
yeah,
this is a good weekend for you.
Yeah, well, one or two of the drivers a little bit underwhelmed in America, I think, by not just the circuit, but all the glitz and glamour that's been going with the driver introductions. You can guess which Dutch driver particularly was underwhelmed.
Oh, really? I haven't seen this. Right, okay.
Yeah, the phrase, "I felt like a clown," was offered up. Okay, well, each to their own, Max.
Okay.
But of course he raced here.
But he was happy to wear a sombrero and be raised up onto the podium a couple of weeks ago in Mexico. Maybe he wasn't happy with that.
I think when you've won a Grand Prix, you kind of go with it,
Yeah,
don't you?
you go with the flow.
Yeah.
He's been here to Macau.
Yeah, that's right.
Competed in the Macau Grand Prix, and there's a set of Max's race overalls in the Grand Prix Museum as well. So yeah, when drivers do go on to achieve great things in Formula One, you can almost always trace them back and see what they did here at Macau.
But fascinating to see the results. I think he was only something like 7th, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't actually excel.
There was a huge buzz around the fact that Max was here and was about to get into a Formula One drive the following year. But no, but he didn't really have an awful lot to prove, did he?
I think by that year, that stage, no, you're right, he'd got the deal done. That was a Felix Rosenqvist year.
It was,
2015.
yeah, it was.
But you're quite right, he did race here.
There you go, you're throwing the names around. Felix Rosenqvist goes on to the top tier of motorsport in America, and
Charles Leclerc was his runner-up, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah. If you do well at Macau, the likelihood is you're a pretty good driver.
Yes, indeed, the so-called Macau test. Well, there, as we go back to touring cars, is Jason Zhang's Lincoln Co. And the pressure really is going to be on now, because they've not only lost half the session, but you're going to lose another 3 minutes before you can even start a flying lap.
So that lap was so important for Jack Young. It was so important to get that lap in. He only just got it in time, didn't he, before the session was stopped once again. But he tops the times in car number 7.
I wonder whether, in any sense, the track is different from yesterday, just to give people the benefit of any doubt here, because we've had more interruptions so far today than we did yesterday. It's a bit more blustery. I don't think that necessarily is going to fire cars into the wall, but there does seem to be a greater amount of incident. You know, maybe the track is cooler, the grip isn't there that they thought they had. Discuss.
A week ago on Friday, it was incredibly hot, incredibly humid. It was 29 degrees at the heat of the day.
Right.
Today's weather forecast, sunny, clear blue sky, so that's exactly the same. Top temperature, 20 degrees today.
Okay.
It's currently 18.
So much cooler. Yeah.
Much cooler.
Yeah.
10 degrees cooler.
Maybe that's part of it, that the drivers are expecting the circuit to behave like it did yesterday, and they're being caught out. And if the likes of Sonny Wong with all his experience and Felipe de Sousa with his local knowledge are getting caught out, then tells you part of the story, doesn't it?
Certainly does. Teams being active down in pit lane, and that's really all they can do at the moment. We haven't even got any kind of indication about how soon the session will get back underway. The 55 car is the car of Xie Xinjie in the Honda Civic. See the big track map
Yes.
taped to the console in the centre of the car.
And like we said yesterday, it's not because the drivers don't know the venue, it's really so that when an engineer says drama at turn 4, as an example, they can instantly look at the map and they know which corner they're talking about, because there's a lot to remember about this lap.
There is an awful lot. It gets a bit vague when you're up into the hill section of the circuit through all of the sweeps and twists and turns of the top part of the circuit, and maybe a little bit simpler to work out precisely where you are when you're on the end of the lap down through Black Sands. Fisherman's, there's no mistake about Fisherman's Bend, it's a 90-degree right-hander, so too our bend, another 90-degree right-hander, the final turn on the course. And then the very fast run through turn 1 at Reservoir and down through Mandarin, down the run to Lisbon. So the car's being held, no indication about when we'll get them back on, but an opportunity to have a look at Jack Young in the office for the day. He was a very cool, calm and relaxed character when he was racing in Clio's when he was just 17 years old, and he's getting a radio message from the team while he's sat in the car down in pit lane. He currently tops the times. His time 2:29.8, the only car underneath a 2:30 around the gear circuit, and did it all in the only chance they had, really. The one flying lap that they got in the qualifying session was live, and that may well prove to be a significant moment in this 20-minute qualifying segment. So you can see the busy pit lane, the marshals, the recovery units working out on circuit to recover 2 areas of incident out on the circuit, and a very colourful lineup of cars down in pit lane. The Macau Touring Car Cup, the China Touring Car Championship down in pit lane. Number 7, Martin Tao in the Hyundai. It's the Elantra, that car, and once again a view of just how many people take a day off work to come and enjoy the only show in town this week at Macau, away for the cameras, and also opportunity for plenty of school trips as well. They crowd into the grandstands on a school trip. You kind of get the feeling they've been doing a school project on the Macau Grand Prix, and this is the treat at the end of the project tunnel, don't you?
Absolutely right. Yeah, let's came back a bit to that lap we were talking about, Jack Young, and the importance thereof. Not only was it important because so few have done a qualifying lap, but that's the best lap these cars have done all weekend. So that was quicker than anybody did in either of the 2 free practice periods yesterday. So he wasn't hanging about. You know, even when the session resumes, I suspect not many people are going to threaten that. And for my money, he ought to be safe in that top dozen to go into Q2.
So slippery surface notification at turns 12 and 13. That's the Solitude S's. We saw that incident take place.
So that's de Sousa's incident, isn't it?
So the officials, the marshals, will have worked on that and have applied the various dressings to make it as cool as it can be.
Balsamic, olive oil, those sorts of dressings.
Oh no, I immediately thought medical dressings.
Oh, I see.
So yeah,
but I'm hungry.
Clearly you are. 11 o'clock in the morning, it is local time. In the sunshine here at Macau, the crowd enjoying whatever it is, free practice, qualifying, racing, they don't mind.
No.
They're just here for the huge event that is the Macau Grand Prix.
And quite frankly, sitting in the grandstands here, whether it's cars on track or bikes, is a heck of an experience because you're actually very close to them.
You are
and the
so
noise
close.
is amazing.
Yeah, it is. In fact, I'm pretty used to the noise of loud music, of loud racing cars, and I put earplugs in this morning.
Oh, bless.
I was worried about my drums.
Were you really?
I was, yeah.
Well, yes.
Very sensitive. You only get one pair. You need to look after them.
What did he say?
That's what my father said.
Really?
Yes. You didn't listen to him either. No, clearly.
Well, 2-litre turbo engines for TCR cars is what the gear circuit is about to echo to. Double helping of touring cars this weekend because this is our first look. We're going to have an equivalent session later for the gear race, which runs as the final event, the event of Macau, for TCR World Tour, the Kumho TCR World Tour, that's sort of grown out of the World Championship and the World Cup. And that's got another impressive entry with a number of local drivers taking part this weekend as well. So that will be coming up a little bit later on in the day. After this, there is going to be qualifying for the Macau 70th Anniversary Challenge. Then we go back to touring cars. Then we have the GT Cup qualifying session, which is going to be absolutely mega. And so is what comes after that, which is Formula 3 qualifying. And then the second motorbike session added on at the end of the day.
Not that we've become fans of the Macau GT Cup or anything, but we can't wait for that local time. It's going to get underway at 2:05, and the Mexican wave from the school children that are here to enjoy qualifying day here at Macau. In fact, I think the teacher is enjoying that slightly more than the children. But it's just the excitement of the school visits. Absolutely superb. That sums up this event. It really does. Happy people. It's a feel-good event, isn't it?
It is. And that grandstand's about to wake up because they've now spotted themselves. You can get an idea of the conditions because although people have got the coats on, it's a little bit chilly, yes, but actually there's hardly a cloud. So what they're doing is kind of sheltering from the sun, really. Otherwise you might cook because it is a very warm sun if you're directly in it.
Yep, I got that impression as well. The only other thing that we noticed, actually, is very bright sunshine, but very few of the local people wear sunglasses. So clearly it's something from our part of the world that we tend to, as soon as it's sunny, we pop sunglasses on. And they are hardened to the sunshine, which is enjoying a totally clear blue sky today. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Bit chilly, but we're used to that. It's not a problem. It's a gorgeous day here at Macau.
Now, we had the session will resume on a very short call notice, and so the teams are ready, but still there's no suggestion that they're about to be released.
There's been nothing from race controllers at all about the restart for this one.
Not yet. So we're not too far away, although in fairness there are certainly 2, maybe even 3 damaged cars. Sunny One's car has gone back to the paddock, which, to make the point for the touring car teams, is an underground car park, I kid you not. And it's almost like the walk of shame. You see a damaged car arrive and then it's condemned to the basement, out of sight it goes,
off
down.
You go.
Yes. So the teamwork team are trying to repair Sunny Wang's Lincoln Co. And other teams like Norris Racing and then Come to You for Felipe de Souza will have to attend to those cars as well. Felipe de Souza with the tools for the job. You know, Come to You is the same team that operates Rob Huff, joint championship leader in the TCR World Tour. So the car was there for him to deliver.
Top team. Yeah, there are plenty of them as well that populate the grid of the China Touring Car Championship that makes up the Macau Touring Car Cup this weekend. And still we find huge crowds in the grandstands that are enjoying enjoying the break. It's incredible. They're very happy, even though we haven't got cars on circuit. We will very soon get cars back out on circuit, hopefully. Jack Young is top of the times at the moment. One chance to get that lap in. 9.5 minutes when we get the session back underway. Take off about 3 minutes of that for the out lap from the pit lane. And you are left with very few opportunities to better what you have already done in this qualifying session.
So, slippery surface noted at turns 12, 13 and 17. Drivers are in cars ready to go. We've got 6 with a time, and we're whittling them away here. 26 started. We're going to have probably no more than 23 eligible, really, for Q1 subsection 3, which is what this will become. And then we reduce that again down to 12 for Q2. 82 is ready to go. That is Lei Jingwen, with another of the 326 racing team cars. I was trying to remember whether, yes, we did see Wu Yifan, who crashed yesterday, but number 51 Audi has been made good for today. So that car is within the session, even though it's not yet done a lap time, but it has been repaired. And we did have, as I say, 1 or 2 others getting involved in dramas yesterday, but the complement of cars complete. But at the moment, it's a very odd order. Felipe de Sousa didn't get a lap in, so he's going to be condemned to the back, and the same is true of Tony Chan, whose Honda we saw spinning and triggering the other mayhem.
We see the crowds using the umbrellas to shield themselves from the sunshine. It's just a few days ago, really, that we started the day with a fully wet circuit, didn't we, for the Formula 4 cars last weekend. They got their activity underway on Sunday, was it? Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, it was race day, wasn't it? Yeah.
Race day on Sunday morning with a fully wet circuit. First time I've ever seen it in 10 years of coming here to Macau. But, now the umbrellas just shielding them from the sunshine on what is a beautiful, beautiful day. Very windy. You saw the trees and the flags blowing. You see the flags on top of the pit building. They're happy.
Yep, absolutely. They'll be happier in a few moments once cars are released. I can only assume this is to still finish the retrieval process. 27 has arrived back in the pits. Chan Chen Lung's Honda Civic.
Maybe there was a lot of oil that was, or something, some fluid that's been dropped. Now we get the indication from race control that the session will be resumed on short call. So that means that you need to be ready in your car, ready to go, because very soon we're going to get this session back underway for 9.5 minutes.
So we're almost there, and Jack Young going into part 3 of Q1 with the top time, and 4 tenths ahead of his championship rival Martin Tao. So you've got those two who are fighting for the championship, set to fight over the top time as well. But at the moment, it's just to get into the top 12, whether that's by doing a banker lap or just by keeping it off the barriers. I tell you what, though, that first race tomorrow with now 2 or 3 really quick drivers at the back is going to be fascinating as we go green and qualifying is live once more. Yep,
they weren't joking when they said on short call, so very quickly the green flag waved down in pit lane, and the cars queue up to get back underway. Let's hope that this doesn't now get an air of desperation when they know that they've only got 9 minutes of the session remaining. They've got to put in a lap if they have not already done so. Let's hope that we don't get another stop in the session, because that is the last thing they want.
So Jack Young heads out on track and is pursued in so doing by Martin Shi, another of the Honda drivers that we have in this. Jack Young, as we've been saying, has come to make a name for himself in the region. He's coming to the championship this year in the Macau racing team, Honda Civic. And down towards Lisboa, up the inside line goes Martin Shi, through on the inside and finds himself clear track space, whereas Jack Young's third in the queue, so he needs these two to disappear up the road. And in fact, there's almost a battle for position going on there, because Andy Yan in the Hyundai wants to be ahead as well. He would be better placed now, backing off, that I think is what's happening, and letting 55 Martin Shi's Honda go.
He's not doing that at the moment.
No, he's not, is he?
A little bit more like a race than it does the pit lane for a qualifying session. And maybe that was part of what I was thinking when I say you hope there isn't an air of desperation to get a lap in, to get a meaningful lap in early on in this resumption of the session. Jack Young at the moment stands in a really good position. He's got a lap time of 2:29.898. Let's see if the track conditions have changed particularly significantly. You just see in the background that yellow and red flag indicating the slippery surface that we've already been told about from race control. They need to be careful about that. There's a couple of areas on the circuit, turns 12, 13 and turn 7 as well. They've all got those red and yellow flags out. Through Police, through Moorish, the two right-handers, then Donna Maria. And this run is going to be the one that sets them up for the completion of this lap. They can begin to turn up the speed on the run down from Macau hairpin and get ready for what hopefully is going to be an uninterrupted first quick lap of the result. Red flag already. Wow. Okay, the last thing we need.
Well, indeed, and so the teams now are going to be massively frustrated, and at this rate you're going to end up without a Q2, aren't you? They're just going to have to run everybody in that second part and try and make a grid out of it, because there's going to be only the option of one lap at this rate. I'm fascinated to know who it is now that's stuffed it all up for them, and that would have been on an out lap as well.
Yes, we haven't seen.
I mean, how can you... The drivers know the
Calm
importance
down.
Of, sorry.
No,
but
don't. Okay.
but
Say what you want.
Well, the drivers know the importance of all of this. The teams will have surely read them the right at. Keep it off the wall. You need a lap. You've got to get a banker lap in. And yet again, Macau bites.
Yeah, it does.
And all these drivers were fine yesterday. They went round and round and round. They learnt the circuit. They got some data. And is that the reason for the red flag, that we've got a banner that's looking a bit dangerous?
It's
or is
really, really windy, and you can see the bushes in the background, the trees in the background. We've got a huge canopy over the grandstand in front of us, which is really taking quite a beating with the wind. It was blustery this morning. The weather forecast last week was wind every day last week. It's been quite a windy couple of weeks here. That may well be the reason.
Yeah, I mean, if that suddenly became dislodged and was thrown onto the circuit, becomes a hazard, then you can understand why that would need attending to. But
we're only guessing.
Yeah. But on the basis that we've been shown that and we haven't been shown a crashed car, then that would seem to make some sort of sense. We'll see whether anybody that has gone out doesn't come back in again. But Felipe de Souza's rather battered Audi has just been brought back. We can see that from our perch overlooking the pit lane, and a lot of damage on the left front corner. So the ComTU mechanics have got a big job for tomorrow to sort that. Other cars currently being waved to the scrutineering area, and actually the three that are going to the scrutineering area are the top three in the times, which sort of gives the impression that that's the end of qualifying.
Yeah.
We need those top three like you would see at the end of a session.
Just under 7 minutes when this session will get back underway. Take off the just under 3 minutes that it takes to get the cars back up to temperature. That's not much. That leaves us about 4 minutes of a meaningful chance to put in a lap. And they've had a few chances to do that, and there has only been one opportunity so far, one that Jack Young welcomed with open arms. He did what he needed to do. He's top of the times at 2:29.898, and another delay for the Macau Touring Car Cup and the China Touring Car Championship.
I'm going to try and delve into the regulations and see what it says about not being able to run a part of qualifying, but technically they haven't been able to run this. It's not the organisers' fault that drivers keep crashing and not many of them have times. So I don't know whether there is provision for that necessarily, but we are in a situation now where it is very unlikely that drivers can do really much more than one flying lap to determine the top 12. So we will see how the balance of qualifying takes shape. All cars will take part in the first 20 minutes. And then they return to the pit lane. The top 12 that progress. Should it become necessary to postpone Q2, ... But there's no instruction within the regulations for what may or may not happen if we can't get everybody to do a time in Q1. It's not compulsory to resume the session or rerun the session to achieve the time criteria. Should one or more sessions be interrupted, no protest can be accepted as to the possible effects of the interruption on the qualification of drivers. Should any incident happen in the qualifying session stopped with less than 4 minutes remaining, it will not be restarted. Well, we escaped that by just over 2 minutes and 58 seconds. But the starting grid of race 1 will be determined by the final results of Q2. But at the moment, we can't really give a proper suggestion of who can go into Q2 because so few have done a lap time. So it's an interesting one for the stewards to ponder this.
My watch found it interesting as well, because when you were talking about regulations, all of a sudden it sparked into life, like, you know, sometimes they do, and said a definition of regulation. So thanks very much indeed for that. By the way, while you were reading out the regulations, we got a second notification from race control. The number 86, that's the car of Jiang Nan, is under investigation for the second time during this session, so that's going some. Bear in mind we've barely had any time of the cars out on circuit, and that's for crossing the pit exit lane. That's the blend line. The unbroken line blends the cars from pit lane onto the circuit, and for the second time there's been a report for Jiang Nan's car number 86, so that car under investigation.
Right. At the moment, I should imagine in race control, it is a hive of activity as they try to work out what can be done. Having said all of that, they've given the drivers ample opportunity. You know, they have a session, they've restarted it, they've restarted it, they've restarted it, and yet drivers are still having issues. I just wonder, though, if this stoppage has been by force majeure, if we're right in saying it's that banner, whether that will in any way sort of trigger a bit more time to be added on, because it's not the fault of the drivers that it's had to be interrupted, but the race officials will ponder and talk to the stewards and come up with a plan. But right now, it's going to be a very odd way of making 12 drivers progress into Q2. The race director for the Macau Touring Car Cup, Eduardo Freitas, who is also the World Endurance Championship race director. He was one of the two that split the Formula 1 race director's job after Michael Massey's tenure. He's a regular at Macau. He was here running the World Touring Car Championship for many, many years. So he's hugely experienced and knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows what can and can't be done. But also, of course, the other aspect, even though today is a little bit kinder on the timetable, you haven't got a finite amount of light. You've still got to be done and dusted by 6 anyway, or before 6, because at 6 o'clock the road's open to the traffic. And there's an extra motorbike session to put on at the end of the day. And before that, there's a little bit of provision for the bikes in where you can and can't have barriers. That's all got to be factored in. So, you know, they can't keep on adding time or letting stoppages ruin the timetable.
Speaking of time, it's 11:17 here, local time in Macau. The next qualifying session for the Macau 70th Anniversary Challenge was due to get underway at 11:25. So it's already into the 20-minute gap between these two qualifying sessions, and we are still in Q1 for the Macau Touring Car Cup. So we are likely to change the schedule the way we're going, because the next qualifying session is not going to be getting underway at 11:25. And you rightly say, with now motorcycles at the end of this afternoon, they're going to be coming up quite close to when we lose daylight here at Macau, because 5 o'clock, 5:15 is when the sunshine begins to leave here, and by 5:30 it's really beginning to look quite dusky.
And that suggests, with the number of people looking at the banner, that it's not an easy fix.
No.
How do we get up there? What mechanism? Do we take it down? Well, that incurs the wrath of a sponsor or the event marketing. And how long is it going to take to put it back? I'm not a steward, as you know.
Or a weather forecaster.
Or a weather forecaster, or a race official.
No.
But...
Or a structural engineer.
But, if it were down to me, I would say, let's abandon this session. And we'll go with the times in FP2.
Would you?
As my unofficial grid.
Would Jack Young agree with you?
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure I might, because I'm still hungry. But the point is that that would be an option. And if you think about other... So it's, this is what SRO tend to do, for example. They have 2 free practice sessions, but FP2 is also badged as pre-qualifying. And that way, if you can't run qualifying for whatever reason, then you can go to pre-qualifying and there's your times.
So free practice does take on a slightly more important role, as indeed it will in BTCC, for example.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, also free practice here is the order in which you're allowed out of the pre-grid onto the circuit for your qualifying session. So there's a bit of pressure in that respect as well. But by doing it that way, that would get round this problem of not being able to run the qualifying session in a manner that is fair to everybody.
And if it is the banner, in defence of anybody that might have put the banner up, it is incredibly windy. It's not just a little bit windy. I thought there was a cyclone on the way this morning driving in, walking in, because I'm quite little, and I could very easily blow away in this wind.
Yes.
I know.
Well, that gives you an idea of the wind. In certain parts, that's the end of the pit straight. Now, we're at the other end of the pit straight, and I'm looking out at trees that are barely moving. So it's a bit patchy, all of this. Maybe it depends on the direction of the wind. It's just picked up again as I say that. So there's an awful lot of activity going on, as you know, on track. There's not much happening in the pit lane.
And
teams sit and wait.
Not for a little while.
No. So all of this, as I keep making the point, part of this China Touring Car Championship, the wins having been split this year by Martin Tao. He has had 3 victories. David Zhu has had 1. Jason Zhang has had 1 win. Jack Young 3 in the end. Andy Yan has had a victory, and Ma Xuing Ha also has had 1, with this being the last doubleheader of the year.
Good timing. We're looking at Andy Yan's car now. That's the number 3 car, Hyundai. And also looking at the crowd. Plenty of them looking at their phones at the moment, presumably updating themselves on the reason for the delay, because not necessarily that they're going to understand fully why the cars have gone out, come back in. You might be a long way from the loudspeakers in the grandstand, and certainly down at the front of the grandstand it's not that easy when there's cars out, wind blowing and all that kind of thing. It's not that easy to hear the speakers.
I'm not entirely sure the teams fully understand the most recent stoppage, because everybody is back in. It's not that we've lost anybody else around the circuit. It is purely that banner.
That's a really good call though by race control and the officials, probably acting on a report from the marshals out on the course. But if there is a big banner like that, and it has unfortunately become not quite as well secured as it was due to the wind, then there should be no question at all that the session is stopped and made safe again. We've had something a bit like this due to weather a few years ago that I remember, just before the qualification race for the Formula 3 race for the Macau Grand Prix, and we had quite a downpour of rain just before the cars lined up on the grid, and quite a bit of rain collected in this canopy on top of the grandstand just in front of our commentary box, and for some reason, a force of nature, it decided to leave the canopy and drop directly on the grid in front of us. So that caused quite a delay. They had a lot of water to sweep off the track.
Oh, okay.
There was enough time for me to interview every driver down there.
In a variety of languages, as I recall.
Well, that was the same year. Yeah, it was the year that I interviewed a Japanese driver that spoke no Japanese. And
no, I think he spoke a lot of Japanese.
Spoke no English.
That's right.
Yes,
I can see where it went wrong straight away here, can't you?
I'm still traumatised by the event. Highly traumatised. It didn't go well, nor has this.
No.
Let's move on.
As anecdotes go, that's right down at the bottom, that one. That was Alan Hyde who died today. So the track maintenance is the reason for this red flag, which is the umpteenth, it feels like, but sadly we've had a couple due to earlier incidents, and the length of the track, 6 kilometres, means an outlap is so long that trying to get to a point where you can get onto a flying lap has just been virtually impossible in this, and only 6 drivers have done a flying lap time. So we'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, Q1 has been run, not completed, but it has been run, and there is still time to resume it, and there is still time for a flying lap. So as long as the drivers behave, race control would argue, well, we gave you every opportunity.
It really hasn't dampened the spirits of those in the grandstands in any way at all, has it? Goodness me. We are going to get the session back underway. That's good news, and it's going to be resumed on a short call. So that's always a good message to get from race control. It means that drivers need to be ready, teams need to be ready for, at any moment, the green flag to be shown down in the pit lane. So that's really good news, David.
It is really good news, and the even better news will be when we've got 12 people with the time and we sort of cleared that immediate hurdle. And then we've got a further 10 minutes. Now, 10 minutes, actually, given that we've got 7 minutes on the clock now and only 6 drivers with a lap time, 10 minutes becomes a luxury. But the point really is, again, 10 minutes, you're going to focus the attention, and errors have got to be minimal.
Yeah, yeah.
There are some big names at the moment that haven't got into the top 6, haven't done a lap time.
Haven't got time.
So the likes of David Zhu and Aaron Kwok and Max Hart as well, all will be drivers to keep an eye on. So it's Jack Young, Martin Tao, Andy Yan, Andre Couto, Rainy Hay and Martin Scheer, the 6 that have got a lap time at the moment. And hopefully before much longer, they will be released onto the circuit. We have the course cars leaving the track, the officials heading back to race control. And there's the grid all lined up. Yeah. Audis, Hyundais, Lincoln Co's, Hondas, and the teams ready to dispatch the cars. Was that you said about not wearing sunglasses?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One person does, just to prove you're
They're
wrong.
hard to buy. It's difficult to find a place to buy them.
Oh, right. Well, there you go. Where was I the other day? And within the store that sold something, there was an Oakley sunglasses corner. Strange, complete, juxtapositioning of. I'm trying to remember where I was now. Yeah, it wasn't a sunglasses place.
Yeah, wow.
So there, Martin Scheer ready to go in the Honda. Andre Couto with him, and then Jack Young, the Mac Pro Hondas. Interesting, isn't it, that in TCR the Civic is still a very competitive car, whereas it struggled for results under a different rule set in the British Championship.
And how long has the Honda been a car to have in TCR? A very, very long time.
Yeah. Since day one.
Yeah, which every single evolution of the car, it has been a great car in TCR.
And indeed, Honda's touring car pedigree, you can go back before that to the Super Touring Honda Accords that were so successful.
Great cars.
Link that to Gabriele Tarquini, who's here overseeing Hyundai in the World Tour. And they were great cars. Different teams operated them over the years until they really found form. So stroll down the pit lane, and there you can see the teams eager to send the cars back out. The session will resume on short call, that notice given, but then it's a long wait before the short call, if you see what I mean.
It is.
It's not that we're ready to go, chaps.
Yeah, we should have taken the lead from race control. It wasn't a very short call, so that's the Apple warning. And generally that's when they know that they're within a minute or so they're going to go. But I think we're standing by now down in the pit lane to get the cars out onto the circuit now. Shall we all keep our fingers crossed in the commentary box that this goes without any interruption? Green flag is waved, so the session is back underway for 6 minutes and 50 seconds.
I have as many things crossed as I can find, although I am on the verge of self-harming if this goes badly, so I'm relying on it now. Out goes Jack Young then, in number 77 Honda, ahead of Martin Tao, ahead of Andy Yan, ahead of Andre Couto in the times as it stands. And the damaged cars already being worked on. And this has not done a power of good to the timetable, but the cars back out on track, and the officials that have been out overseeing the trackside furniture dramas, they've come back in as well, their work done. So, yet again, they've got to get the warmth into the tyres. Then they've got to try and do a push lap. And right now, it is a lap of any description. that you need.
And it's Jack Young in car number 77 that tops the times, and a 2:29.8 is the target time for everybody else for Jack Young. And Jack Young has the beauty of being pretty close to the front of the field as they weave the cars. It now gets even more difficult on this section of the circuit to weave the cars. It's really when they have come down from Macau hairpin and the circuit begins to open out down through Black Sands, Fisherman's Bend, and that's when they can really start getting the heats into the tyres at the end of the lap to move on and set themselves up for the fast lap that ensues.
What still slightly puzzles me in all of this is how close drivers want to run to the car ahead on an outlap. They all know that clear track space is going to be a good thing, and yet there's so much crowding heading up through the S's there, as though if I sit on your back bumper, you're going to get out of my way. No, because that driver ahead of you wants the car ahead of him to disappear and go for the track space. So it still baffles me how many drivers seem to be so determined on an outlap like this to make a fight of it.
So the thing that maybe baffles me about that is that drivers may take the decision to let's get on, let's get out, let's get close to the car in front, but the teams would perhaps get the idea of telling them beforehand that's not what we want to do.
And why not hold the car back?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you've got teamwork letting all of them go at once, you've got Macau doing the same. Why not? And we saw the Formula 3 teams do it yesterday. Just give it 20, 30 seconds. You release the car into clear track space, and off you go. And for the third time in the session, under investigation for crossing the blend line is Jiang Nan with the Z-Speed Hyundai. I think after 3 transgressions of that, it's not going in the right direction as far as a trip to the stewards is concerned. But right now, we are about to have Martin Xi and Andre Couto released onto a lap. Now, Jack Young left the pit lane with them. He, I think, has done the right thing by slowing right down and letting everybody, or these two ahead of him, go. And it's Andre Couto that gets ahead of Martin Xi. And so he's going to be the first one to pick up the pace and go for a time.
And there's Jack just in the background that you see coming down towards the conclusion of the lap. They come across the timing beam now and go onto a flying lap. Let's hope that this is a complete flying lap. It's the 66 car we're looking at. Andre Couto, a winner here at the Macau Grand Prix in the past. And now we are back underway. We've only got 3.5 minutes left.
And Andre Couto is going to slow, in fact, and let Martin Xi get back ahead of him. So Andre Couto not happy with something and therefore backs out of it. He's already 4th. He has got a lap time, but he's not picking up the pace once more. Nor is Jack Young, actually. He's still weaving, so maybe Andre Couto gave it a bit of a blast down towards Reservoir and thought, no, grip's not there. And that looked a bit skittish as well from Martin Xi. Just had to really fight the car to get it to bite, to get it to turn. So it comes back to this whole track temperature aspect that Alan was talking about 7 hours ago, it feels like, when we had the earlier stoppage. But the point being, it's a cold track, and even though we're nudging 11:30 around the clock here, it is still not warm enough to really reward drivers with the grip they had yesterday. But Martin Xi is working the car hard and trying to generate the warmth back through the rubber that way.
And we're getting the little puffs of smoke that we saw from Jack Young's car, from the back of Jack Young's car for Martin Xi, and maybe that suggests that it really isn't anything to worry about on these cars. It's just a feature, if you like, that Martin Xi's car really is. See, every time through the corner and the approach to the corner, you just get that puff of smoke from the rear of the car.
Well, Martin Xi is trying hard, in fairness to him, and as he comes there now through Police, that right-hander, and up towards Moorish, the Honda Civic, the Macau Racing team, accelerates now up towards Donna Maria, and on this lap the first sector was good, sectors 2 and 3 not so good, and that smoke,
it's
I would say, it's getting worse.
It's a lot of smoke from the back of his car, a lot more than it was from the back of Jack Young's car, but we wonder whether it's anything to worry about. Let's have a look where we are as they come down from the Macau hairpin. In the background we've got Jack Young's car. They are queuing up, if you like, for the Macau hairpin. There's a damaged car. It's the 65 car. It's the car of Ling Chan-Kwa in the fancy Audi.
That's it. That's going to be another stoppage, and there is less than a lap time left. So unless they cover that off with a yellow flag and just let people go and get a lap time, red flag, and that's your lot. Because there's no chance of getting things back underway unless they're given a time extension. But you're right, in the wall, Ling Chen-Kwa, and that is it. And yet again, Macau bites. But what is it about today? It can only be that it's a colder track, and that's what's catching out people, surely.
Because we had such a well-run, well-disciplined day yesterday. This is what happened.
Big lock-up, straight on, boom,
wow, that's
into the wall.
quite a clout as well to the barrier.
Yeah, and that has absolutely destroyed the right front, and it's done the toe link on the right rear as well as he's kaboomed off the barrier.
It's not often you see the barrier actually give a little on impact. The barriers here are so unforgiving, but that was a mighty hit.
Right, I'm fascinated to know what they're going to do next, because we do not have 12 drivers that can progress.
No. Fortunately, David, that's not our concern.
No, indeed. There would be a 5-minute break. Well, it's going to be longer than that anyway, because we need to retrieve a car. We need to make sure that barrier is okay. So I spy down the pit lane. They come yet again. But I know we're kind of saying this with tongue-in-cheek, but it's been a somewhat unsatisfactory session because of all of the interruptions. And OK, one of it is down to circumstances outside anybody's control. If the weather conditions bring a barrier to a dangerous state. But a lot of it, you've got to level at driver's door to say, what are you playing at?
Yeah.
You know what the circuit's like.
Yeah.
You know the importance of the session. You know the importance of a banker lap and trying to get through. And yet, the majority of those have happened either on an out lap or on the first flying lap of a session.
Still a bit concerned about the amount of smoke that was coming out the back of the 55 car because it was more than just a little puff of smoke, wasn't it? It was quite a plume.
Yeah, but Montichy didn't seem to care, unless
no.
he adopts the attitude that, well, I'll just drive it and it's up to the engineers to fix. But yeah, he didn't seem to think about bailing for the pit lane with it or anything like that. He was pressing on as best he could.
Local time here in Macau, 11:36. So in normal circumstances, we would now be a good way into our next qualifying session for the Macau 70th Anniversary Challenge, where we see Toyota GR86s and Subarus competing against each other to celebrate the 70th Macau Grand Prix. However, we've had a number of stoppages for the Macau Touring Car Cup, the China Touring Car Championship, competing here on the gear circuit. In fact, I have lost count how many stoppages we've had.
In this session alone?
Yes.
I think that was 4.
Stoppage number 4.
So the first one was for Sunny Wong. I had to remind myself who I'd written down there, because it was a while ago.
It was a long time ago.
The second one was the double whammy for the Tony Chan and Lung Cheng Fan incident, and also we had Felipe de Souza in the wall.
Yes.
The third red flag was for the banner.
Yes.
And then red flag number 4 is for, who did you say it was? Ling Chen Hua, number 65 Audi, which is there being retrieved. At least he had the good grace to stop near a crane. Yeah,
so that's a quick fix as far as getting the car off the circuit. There is certainly a bit of investigation to the barrier just to make sure that that's okay. I'm pretty sure it was, but it did give a little as the impact took place, so they just need to inspect that to make sure that the foundations for that area of barrier are absolutely as they should be. And also a bit of debris to clear up from the circuit as well. But in the meantime, how many times have we said that? Said this during a red flag intervention, that Jack Young is top of the times with a 2:29.8. We said at the time that it was pretty important that you put that lap in early on in the session. I don't think we really realised just how important that was going to be.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. So, in theory, the top 12 would go through into the next part of qualifying. But only in the end, 6 drivers did a proper lap time out of the 26 that began the session. So now the stewards will discuss what they do about the next part. You could argue that you only put the 6 drivers through that did a time. You could argue that you can't run Q2. You could argue that you need to give the drivers more time from Q1. There are all sorts of discussions, no doubt, that will go on to come up with the final solution, the final plan.
Jack Young, car 77, a 2:29.898, the only car to have ducked underneath a 2.5-minute lap around the circuit. Chance to see the cars down in pit lane. And I'm going to guess that there are quite a few quite high-level conversations taking place behind the scenes in the administration of the championship.
I mean, some of the drivers, I think, are anticipating that they're going to go back out again. Now, they could do that. They could say, all right, we'll give you an extra 5 minutes. They could go... there are all sorts of options, right? You abandon it completely, you use a free practice time. You could say, we'll take the 10 minutes out of Q2, give you those, and just run it as an all-in qualifying session and not do the elimination process, because technically that 10 minutes is still available to you. Or you just take 6, or you give an extra bit of time to Q1 and still do a Q2. There are lots of things that are available, I would have thought, to the stewards, because these are circumstances that are not covered in the regulations per se, and therefore a solution has to be found. Yeah, exactly. I think, again, depending on what the timetable permits, I would say, right, we're going to do 10 minutes, but for everybody. But it's not my choice, it's down to the stewards. But that, if you like, is I suppose, available to them, because the qualifying session still has 10 minutes to run, if you see what I mean.
Just looking back to see when this session got underway, 10:30 this morning, so we are now 1 hour and 10 minutes into this qualifying session. Q1 of 2.
Yes. Stay ahead, it says on the back of the Martin Shi team crew clothing. That's 25, which is Yan Chao, with another of the Audis, that car run by Bass Racing. And it's interesting, isn't it, that nobody is getting out of a car. Nobody is thinking, well, that's it, I've not got through to Q2. They're all sitting there.
Still in with a chance.
Yeah. As though Q2 will be available to everybody.
Ever the optimists.
Well,
doesn't dampen the spirits of the crowd, although a few of them popping off to get something to eat. There are so many opportunities to get a bite to eat, something to drink, to keep you comfy in the grandstands if you're here for the entire duration of the day, and the school trips as well. So nothing can dampen their enthusiasm for this event, and why would they? The schools all colour-coded, so it's really easy to see where each school take their place in the grandstands, and that's really good to see on a Friday morning here at Macau. A huge draw, not just from the motorsport fans of the area, but also from around the world as well. They come from all corners of the world to focus on this area, not just for the action that we get during the day.
Another school trip. How was your school day out then? Well, that's about flags.
It was all right. We weren't in the classroom, so it was all right.
Some big crashes.
Yeah, that's true.
Anybody that was sat in the grandstand at Reservoir and saw Sonny Wong's off, will take that home with them. So the session is still under red flag, and the car of Ning Chenhua being recovered. The Fancy team operates that car, whereas you have Fancy also running a Lincoln Co of Yan Chang within the Kumo TCR World Tour.
A team name I like.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Yes. Takes your fancy.
Because I can say the Fancy Audi, and it's absolutely right, and I like it.
Not so fancy now, is it?
Not as such.
No. So with normal life continuing around the perimeter of the gear circuit, and still another touring car qualifying session, a GT qualifying session, a Formula 3, a road sport and a motorbike session to go. The track officials hard at work clearing cars and trying to make sure that everything fits before the end of the day. That's the other thing you could argue as well, is that the TCR China competitors have had so many bites at the cherry. Is it wrong, is it acceptable rather, to compromise other people's time in the timetable for them? race controllers, Alan said, will be a hive of activity getting to the solution.
They will, as we look down at the number 7 car, away for the camera, and that's Martin Tao's car.
Martin Tao in one of those Hyundai N entered, Hyundai Elantras. So if you've got the Hyundai N badge on it, you know it's a sort of works effort. And Hyundai with a big program in touring car racing and rallying, another manufacturer that's really taken motorsport by the scruff to promote the brand, and it works. You know, you see so many of the lilac Hyundais on the road now. There's a whole cult following to the cars, and yeah, the involvement in the sport has certainly paid dividends for Hyundai.
Motorsport, as far as the way that a brand is perceived, so often in the past has done a really good job of making a brand be cool and look cool. And I particular, it was the Volvo that entered the BTCC. The Volvos at the time were seen as a very practical car, a very safe car, but maybe not anything to get excited about. Give it to Tom Walkinshaw and say, put a livery on that, make it race, make it win.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And it becomes a cool brand.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I mean, when the 240 turbos raced in the 80s and would have raced here in the gear race, they were known as the Stockholm Taxis because they were this very square, staid car.
Yes.
But quick, but didn't have any flair. But, yes. So the China Touring Car Championship qualifying has been abandoned. Might have heard it in the background, but the qualifying has come to an end, and how a grid is worked out will await news. Could be on championship positions, but either way, with so many interruptions, qualifying 2 is cancelled, and there's not enough of qualifying 1 left anyway. So that, Alan, is it.
Is it? I don't know how to work this one out, so it's just as well it's nothing to do with us. We will get notification of how they are going to form a grid for their race, which is going to take place, of course, tomorrow, their first race of the weekend, a 9-lap race at 10:05, and I've just worked out how to line up the grid by about 10:05 tomorrow morning, and then they'll have race 2 on Sunday at 8:20 tomorrow morning. So that was perhaps a little bit of a challenge for everyone concerned, not just the teams, the drivers, but also everyone up in race control and around the circuit as well. That was just a bit hard work, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but I know I keep banging on about it, but it does illustrate the importance of not being a hero, keeping it off the barriers, and putting a banker lap in, because, you know, for 6 drivers only to be able to do a time out of 26 isn't a great advert for driving standards in that session. Jack Young putting himself at the top of the times, but either way, as the championship leader, he should be up at the front come the race.
Particularly after yesterday, they were so good.
Exactly.
We made mention of it yesterday.
Yeah. Well, whatever they had for breakfast, it's left a rather messy China Touring Car Championship, Macau Touring Car Cup qualifying session, and we'll be back once action is underway again here at Macau.